Flo, I thought we'd start reflecting on last season, mainly the Carrow Road game, because I don't think we've been able to speak since then. It was obviously such an important event for you. I know you were involved in a lot of the organisation with a lot of other guys as well, but to come away with 7,500, you must have been absolutely delighted with how that, and a win of course, and how that all played out.
Yeah, it was a really historic day for the club. We were super proud of all the planning that went in beforehand. We were meticulous with, where should we put the fan zone, what time should things be open, can we get the Euros trophy. There was some real, meticulous planning that went in, and we were so proud that on the day, we surpassed all of our kind of ambitions of what we hoped for in attendance, and we were like, wow, this is amazing. And now we've got a platform to build off, and we've got to, we've almost got to make sure that every year, we build on this success. And last year we kind of reviewed it and said, how can we make this better? What do we have to do? How can we build on this? And this year it's already been announced that we're hoping to have 2 games at Carrow Road, which is just excellent. So, we have a brilliant team behind a team. I kind of say that quite a lot, but we do. We have teams within our office that work so tirelessly, from our commercial teams to our media teams to our operations teams of, putting events on and kind of all the planning that goes behind that. There's so much that as a club we want to do, and so many ideas that we have that we're trying to get off the ground, and ultimately they're all for the growth of the women's team and the women's game, because we're not also inspiring our local community, we're inspiring a next generation too, of hopefully young girls who'll be wearing a Norwich City shirt.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're obviously speaking a few days after the World Cup final, which I think we're both still a little bit sore about, so we won't dwell on that, but it does feel like women's football's at a really important juncture at the moment. Obviously the Euros win last year just fell short in the World Cup this year. I mean, you must feel like, particularly at the moment, there's so many eyes on women's football. There's so much room there for growth, perhaps more than there ever been. You've played in the game as well. You must be really excited about the state of women's football at the moment, and I guess your guys' role within that, but also the opportunities that are there as well.
Yeah, how great is it that the Lionesses have been in 2 major finals in the last 13 months? Brilliant. Absolutely a great advert for not only women's football, but also the legacy that they've created, and also they're continuing to create. We see Lauren Hemp, a North Welsham girl, a Norfolk girl who's flying the flag very high at the moment, and we're super excited by what the Lionesses have done, but also the kind of growth that the domestic game will now see. Because of that stage they've created, we've seen attendances increase already, commercial interest, viewing figures. It's just excellent to see this growth. Yes, as a club and as a country, we have a duty to almost capitalise on that and create some real clear strategies on how we move forward and grow. Women's football's in a unique position that we're kind of forging a path and forging some kind of creations right now that hopefully will kind of stead the game as a sustainable platform going forward.
Yeah, and I think when we speak about the women's team, Norwich City at the moment, we reference that Carrow Road game, but actually you look at the Nest and attendances were rising throughout last season. You probably got to a stage towards the end where you were really pleased with the numbers that you were getting into the Nest every week. It does feel like it's building gradually compared to when you first came in, so you must be really proud of everything that last season was off the pitch as well as on the pitch.
Yeah, we're so lucky to have a brilliant facility in the Nest, and we've really made that into our home. It's a proper fortress for any away team that plays us there. I think we've created an atmosphere, and that's credit to our fans, the people who turn up week in, week out of the Nest, and the energy that they bring. But also, again, I speak about the team behind the team. We have super individuals and super teams that collaborate to bring a match day together, but also all the hard work that goes in behind the scenes to plan events, to put on kind of, exhibitions that the fans can come and enjoy before a game.
It's been a hectic summer for you, hasn't it? Since that last Carrow Road game, you've obviously had to replace a head coach. You've made 7 signings. There's been lots of logistics stuff that you've got another game at Carrow Road to prepare for. I hope you've had some sleep amongst all of this. Let's start with the head coach search then. What was that like before we get into Martin? What was that like as a process? How did that plan out? Did it go the way that you expected, that you wanted? Did you learn anything from that process?
It was a long process. It started off with some conversations probably a long time ago, many months ago, with the UEA. We've got a strong strategic partnership in place as a club, and we kind of collaborated together. They had some kind of suggestions on some ideas that they had moving forward around where they hope to take their university programme, where the women's football kind of sits in their priorities. And it was really clear that, you know, we've got a unique opportunity to collaborate. There's some real benefits of teaming up, player development's at the centre of what we're trying to do, and that's a big part of the UEA partnership. So, you know, it was a real meticulous process because we had many stages of the interview process, and Martin's resume stood out for a coach to have coached in New Zealand, Canada, in the UK, with women's teams as well. You know, his record speaks for itself. We were super excited, and his personality just shone through, and so far he's been a real asset, and we're super excited to see kind of what he can forge with the team going forward as well.
And again, in terms of a process, was it you that made that decision with Martin? Was it a group of people? How did that process kind of work? To once you identified Martin as your preferred candidate, whose say was it? Was it a collaborative thing? Was it your kind of?
Yeah, it was obviously it's a joint role with the UEA, so there was lots of different conversations. It was a real tough process, but we were super excited once we found Martin, and you know, as soon as we appointed him, we couldn't wait to get started.
And again, from the recruitment side of things, you made 7 signings. How has that worked? Has he been involved in that process? Is it something that you knew the style he wanted to play and it was recruiting to that process? How's that kind of worked with the new additions that you've made? Yeah,
I think all the new signings we've made have really brought both quality and experience to the squad. We identified kind of some areas that we needed to strengthen in. I think we look at some of the signings we've brought in. Some are really young, hungry and up and coming, and you look at someone like Sarah Quantrill, who has got bags of experience, you know, played at Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. You know, she's learnt some real key skills, and for someone who can come in and work really closely with Bryony as well, I think we've got some real good balance within our squad now to push on, and the kind of role that we thought that we needed to play was we need a squad that Martin can really work with and he can implement his philosophy on, and we're really excited by that squad.
Good stuff, and the aims for this season as well, which it always does make me chuckle when people talk about aims because it's a really difficult thing to speak about, but being very idealistic, I think the aim for you guys was to obviously make progress last year. Are you being a bit more narrow-minded? Is it promotion this season? Is that kind of where you feel this squad is at? It's obviously a very competitive division. One goes up. How are you kind of looking ahead to the new season and maybe where you sit? It's
super competitive, isn't it? You know, one goes up, 2 teams come down into our league as well. So, you know, it's going to be really tough this season. You know, we've made no kind of we've always said that, you know, we don't want to be in the minors. We want to be in the majors. Yes, it takes some time to climb that pyramid, and we're trying to do it organically. We're trying to do it in you know, a way that is sustainable through supporting the team with the right infrastructure, having the right people in. You know, we've seen this year developments of, you know, bringing Martin in and, you know, training here at the Lotus Training Centre. You know, all of these sort of small infrastructure changes has a massive impact on performance. The ability to bring the team in and bring them into an analysis suite where we can, you know, break down a game and review is just excellent. And those are the kind of infrastructure changes that we've looked to implement this year, and giving the team all the tools to say, you know, here you go, you know, we're providing everything we can right now. So, you know, hopefully that's going to have some massive performance boosts on the pitch.
In terms of Martin, obviously, and again, I will ask you specifically about him in a moment, but we've got to speak about Sean as well and the impact that he had to grow the club to where it was. Obviously, I oversaw the club whilst they were integrated into the first team. It was into the club. It was obviously an excellent season that he had last year. Capped with that Carrow win, County Cup win as well, which was a great way to sign off for him.
Yeah.
Just kind of talk to us about the influence that he had and how much he'll be missed, I guess, by the girls and the team and his impact overall at the club over the last few years.
Yeah, Sean was excellent. His work rate, his commitment to develop the team was spot on. Obviously, it was sad when he left the club, but he left it in a much better place than he found it, and it was so so pleasing to kind of hear when he left and he spoke to the girls. He spoke, had many conversations with me on his reasons why he was leaving, and actually we kind of sat down and said, what a place to leave the team in, having won a county cup, having won in front of 7,500 people at Carrow Road, and he's left his stamp on the team, and that was part of the recruitment process as well. We had big shoes to fill with who we appointed, which was credit to Sean.
Yeah, and it's a slightly different role. I think Sean has said pretty publicly that the demands of the role at the moment with the UEA stuff that you spoke about, with it being a full-time role, which is really exciting as well, probably wouldn't have worked for him. So in terms of Martin, I mean, you said earlier his resume stood out, and you listed some reasons for that, but has he kind of, he's only sitting in the other room, so maybe I have to keep it hush, but has he been everything that you kind of expected so far? Has he fitted in well the last few weeks, because he seems an absolute bundle of energy?
Yeah, absolutely. He's come in with some really clear ideas on how he wants the team to play. Yes, it's going to take some time, naturally. We only have a limited amount of time with the players. It's not as if they're full-time athletes, and Martin can deliver day in, day out on, tactical ways of playing. So we're having to think very innovatively on how we deliver content to the team, and how Martin can deliver key messages. He came in for the Wroxham game during pre-season, and then he had, only a matter of less than 2 weeks to prepare for his first league game. So, he's been excellent, and he's just got stuck in, and he's been everything that we hoped for.
Yeah, and as you say, for someone to have so much commitment to this role, they're willing to relocate, they're willing to move to a new area, learn a new club as well. That must be a massive plus for you, I guess, in terms of his commitment and where he sees the potential of this team as well.
Absolutely. From the first conversation we had, it was, his enthusiasm shone through. His motivation and the reasons why he wanted to take the role kind of stood out. And it inspired me actually to hear kind of his story, his journey, and how he wants to shape the development of players here. A big part of what we do is centred around developing our homegrown players. We're super proud of our pathway. We see Lauren Hemet, in the Euros and both the World Cup. So we're hoping that we can bring through the next generation of Lionesses, but also of Norwich City Women's team players, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do going forward is create a team that's centred around homegrown talent.
And on that pathway for you, I mean, what at the moment is considered a success? Is it a young player moving up the pyramid and having to go somewhere else to do that, or is it them? Or I guess it's kind of how do you get to a stage where you're able to, and maybe this is a question for the men's team as well, but how do you get to a stage where you can retain that young talent that you're building through, or is it a case that you're probably going to have a few cycles before that you're maybe at a stage to do that within the women's game, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, like I said, we're super proud of our pathway, and we've seen Eloise Moran come in over the last 12 months and really kind of stake a claim in the team. For someone so young to have such maturity and such authority on the pitch as well, playing as a centre midfielder at her age, it's been a breath of fresh air. And ultimately, if we're doing our jobs right and developing players at the moment where we sit in the women's football pyramid, inevitably we may lose some players, but hopefully that's because we've done our job as a club right. Yes, we want to climb that pyramid, and yes, we want to climb that ladder, and hopefully, we retain those players. But it's certainly a task we've got on our hands, and one that we're looking forward to kind of seeing how it develops.
Yeah, and that's obviously one aspect of the strategy. I mean, from your perspective, how far ahead in the future are you looking and planning for? Is it kind of 2-year cycles, 3-year cycles, a bit more fluid than that? How does it kind of work from your perspective to look ahead and what the future may look like and might hold for the women's team of this club?
Yeah, we planned kind of for all eventualities. We look longer term, we look short term, we look mid term. Short term we're looking at how we can develop our team right now, and Martin's integral to that, and how we can implement his tactical information to them. Longer term, like I said, we don't want to be playing in the minors, we want to be in the majors. Yes, that takes time. Yes, that takes organic growth. But ultimately, as a club, we want to do it sustainably, and that's at the heart of what we're trying to do. Yeah,
and I guess it is that process as well. And do you feel, because of so much has happened with this team, kind of off the pitch, integration in the club, obviously you've hired a full-time head coach, now that the focus needs to shift to on the pitch, is that kind of where you are with where this team is, whilst of course maintaining that off-pitch growth, but Has there been a shift, I guess, because as you said, is it now about kind of on-pitch success and pushing the team up the levels for you as well? How do you kind of assess that aspect as the focus shifted from off the pitch to on the pitch?
Yeah, look, in football, we all want to win. We don't, we're not in football to lose. We're not. We do want to win games. We do want to see success, but success can be measured in lots of different ways. And we just talked about success of developing homegrown players, and for us, that's at the heart of what we're trying to do. And you look at the success of the Carrow Road game last year. There's lots of different successes that we've seen, and there's lots of different kind of targets and lots of different things that we've got our eye on in the future. Not to say that those are too far away, but we're really excited. I
guess there's an element for you where everything is so exciting on the horizon, but there also needs to be a focus on now, doesn't there? And where you sit now, it's and I know I've asked you questions before about becoming professional and all of those aspects, but actually I guess your role is focusing on the steps in between to reach that point, and that may be a lengthy process as well. So that must be quite a balancing act for you to look long term and short term at the same time. Do you find that easy to do on a kind of personal basis? Yeah,
absolutely. We always kind of look longer term, and we're quite lucky because we can look at other clubs as kind of best examples, best practices, and almost visit them and use them as case studies. So we're in a really fortunate position. Yes, it takes some time, it takes some growth, but we're super proud of what we're creating, and we're super proud of the journey that we're going on. Everyone at the club, when you talk to them about the women's team, is only filled with enthusiasm and also with loads of innovative ideas, because ultimately yes, it is a different demographic and a different target audience that supports women's football, and it's it's not a Saturday afternoon at Carrow Road. Typically it's different, and we're under no illusions of that, but at the end of the day it's just football, and we're super proud and super excited of what hopefully is to come in the future.
That probably leads us on nicely. I've got to ask you about the comments that Stu Webber made earlier in the summer around women's football. I think he was asked a question on it specifically, and maybe spoke about how it wasn't particularly of interest to him, and I think he made reference to the quality aspect of it. From your perspective, I guess what was kind of your reaction to reading those comments, but I guess more so probably on the players, who I'd imagine would have read that stuff as well. As how has that kind of process been? Have they come and spoken about it? Has there been a conversation about it openly? How's it kind of played out?
Yeah, Stuart is nothing but honest, and I get so much support from Stu. On a daily we'll be WhatsApping back and forth, and he was the first person to actually come and speak to the girls immediately. He spoke to the girls and kind of explained where the sort of long-term plan is for the women's team, how closely him and I work together, and that really resonated with the players. Sometimes, there's things that are said, and sometimes there's things that are read online, and, actions speak louder than words. I have so much support from Stu. He's so invested in the team. The strides we've made this year. We train here at Lotus Training Centre twice a week. We've got staff that are across both the men's first team and our women's first team now, in the physical performance areas, the medical, sports science. So all of these kind of actions, they speak so much louder than words. And I can only place on record, my thanks for all of Stuart's guidance, because I'm learning lots. And only the other day did Martin and I go and have lunch with David and Stuart, and just spoke about football and spoke about, the upcoming games for the men's teams, our upcoming games, and we all have similar challenges, so it was great to almost share information, and at our club we're so I think it's such a progressive club on how we share information across different departments, and Stuart's door is literally always open, and I can just go and knock on his door and have a chat and have a cup of tea sometimes, just to kind of go through some things, and I can only place on record the guidance that I'm getting, and also that the strides the team is making, and we've seen in a year how much progression we've made both on and off the pitch, and I'm certain that it's only going to keep going.
Can you understand why there will have been a lot of supporters, I guess, who maybe have invested a lot in the women's team and come to watch the women's team regularly who will have been disappointed by those comments, and appreciate obviously that they wouldn't have been privy to him going and speaking to the team thereafter. But can you understand the reaction it got? I guess for a lot of people it's maybe the type of comments and however way you meant it that maybe people feel women's football is fighting against, if that makes sense. So can you understand why there has been that reaction to it that maybe there was earlier in the summer?
Well, we had 7,500 people come and watch the game at Carrow Road, so we know that our women's team is at the heart of our community. And again, I can only kind of stress that actions speak louder than words, and that we want to inspire and support our local community. 2 games at Carrow Road next year. We've seen uplifts in media coverage and getting to know personalities across our women's team. We're really committed to, as a club, to put our women's team at the forefront of what we're doing. I think it's evident that joint signing sessions over the summer, school holidays, we've had watch-alongs at Carrow Road. All of these actions are speaking louder than words, and I think it's a statement from the club of our intent of where our women's team sits.
Yeah, we're speaking here at Colney, where you and Martin are both here. You've got a training session here this evening. Sort of tell us a little bit about the involvement that you guys have here and the facilities that are. I mean, you've mentioned analysis rooms and physiotherapy and maybe split staff who work between the men's and the women's team. Tell us a little bit more about that relationship with the sporting side of the club and how that's sort of played out and developed over the last year or so.
Yeah, it's happened organically. Like I said, everyone at this football club is so welcoming. We have conversations across different departments, across different teams. Martin and I sit in the same office as all the academy staff, and this site is so open to information sharing on best practices. And it's a high performance environment. It's a Category 1 academy, and so the information and the kind of culture that this place is inspiring. It really is, and it ups our game too. But we've seen, the girls come in on an evening, they use the analysis suites, they're out into the dome in the winter when it's, blowing a gale and we're trying to do set plays. It's great that Martin can have all of these facilities and the infrastructure at his disposal, because he can go in and kind of deliver a session and not have to worry about, do we have floodlights, or, is it, tipping down with rain? We've got everything, and we've got all of those kind of, what ifs, and all of those kind of options to hand.
You've referenced the relationship with the UEA, the strategic partnership that you guys have. Obviously, Martin's working across kind of both. Talk to us a little bit about how that's played out and what it involves for him and for the club more widely as well.
Yeah, it's really exciting for us. We spent a lot of time with UEA kind of working out how best the role would materialise, a structure in place around, the Bucks team there, our women's team, how both can complement each other. We have lots of players who study at the UEA but also play in our team, so it was kind of a unique opportunity to combine the role. So Martin's going to have time with players, probably 3, 4, 5 days a week, which is only going to improve player development. Naturally we see, players who are full-time, who, we're not at that stage yet, but if we can get some of our players who are training 3, 4, 5 times a week, naturally their development is going to accelerate. So yeah, we saw it as a massive step forward in what we're trying to do right now.
I think there's been a massive study into women's football that was released earlier this summer. It spoke kind of about the structure of it and how to take it forward. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it said that in an ideal world it would like in the future to make kind of the top 2 divisions of women's football professional. I mean, is that kind of the route that you see it going from here, and what does it take, I guess, for the women's pyramid more broadly? There's obviously a lot of focus on the Super League, but the levels below that, what needs to happen to help progress those divisions, the levels that you guys are at, but also maybe the 2 divisions ahead of you guys? Yeah,
absolutely. I think the Women's Super League has gone from strength to strength in, probably the space of a year. And the FA have probably noticed that, to see all of our, next generation of Lionesses coming through, the talent's now coming through at Tier 4, Tier 3. And so, yes, the investment kind of needs to kind of, drip down the pyramid, and I naturally think it will, off the successes of this year's World Cup. So I think we're set for a really exciting future of women's football, and I think reports like Karen Carney's review into women's football in this country are only going to create really healthy discussions around the future and the sustainability of women's football as well, because that's important. We want to see longevity, and we want to see generations coming through, and actually that every generation that is a better place, and the women's game is a better place for it.
Absolutely, and obviously I've got to ask you about the Lionesses, and I guess Lauren Hemet specifically, someone you played with, someone you know well on a personal level. You must be really proud of everything that she's achieved. Euros, World Cup finalist. For a girl from North Walsham, it's not bad, is it?
Yeah, super proud of her. Look, on the world stage, tearing it up. A Norfolk girl, a local hero. How brilliant is that people of all ages can look up to Lauren, especially in our county, and be so inspired. I think she's just gone away to Australia and New Zealand this summer, and really she's shown the world what she can do. And I think it's exciting to know that with her age she's only going to get better as well. So I know everyone at Norfolk is always behind her, and hopefully we'll see. Maybe at the next Euros, and hopefully at the next World Cup, there'll be gold medals around her neck again. Yeah,
she was outstanding. I think there's a mural in North Walsham of her, which is just incredible. I mean, from the place where you were as a young person trying to play football, trying to make a career out of football, to see Lauren's face on the side of a wall, to see the viewing figures for the World Cup final, you must be so pleased and proud and I don't know, how does it feel to see where women's football is at the moment? Because it feels like it's really, particularly in this country, really accelerated over the last 12 months. And I guess everyone looks at the Lionesses for being responsible for that.
Yeah, absolutely. People tune in on their TVs over the last few weeks and have seen, a final, a semi-final, a quarter-final, and really got behind the team. I think it's important that the domestic game now kind of reaps the rewards of that. So I would only encourage fans to come down to the Nest, come to Carrow Road, experience women's football, because of the development and the kind of platform we hope to build over the next few years. I think it's so exciting that the Lionesses have almost given us a springboard to kind of put women's football in the shop window.
Yeah, and we just final couple. I mean, we spoke about the attendances increasing at the Nest. But is there a point in the future where, I don't know, you have to expand it, or there's a view of having to play football somewhere else? Is that sustainable for the growth and levels of growth that you hope to see in the coming years?
Yeah, well, right now we were averaging about 350 last year at the Nest, and so this year we're hoping to build on that. When we're not quite at a point where we're selling the Nest out every week, if we get to that point, yes, there'll be different conversations, but we're nowhere near that right now. So, we can't run before we can walk. We've got to, look at the next steps on how we increase that number year on year, and how we do that organically as well.
And just finally then, let's close with the Carrow Road game that's coming out. 2,000 tickets sold already. Where are you, because obviously you've got something comparable now to compare it with, where are you kind of tracking in terms of ticket sales? Are they where you'd like them to be? Are they ahead of where it was at the same stage for the last Carrow Road game? I mean, it's still absolutely major interest in a women's football game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're hoping to build on those attendance numbers last year. We're hopeful that many who enjoyed the game will return again, and I'd encourage everyone who enjoyed it to tell their friends, to bring a mate, and hopefully we'll see them all there on the 10th of September again.
I asked you this question last time, and I guess the answer is full, but is the success of that a bigger attendance than 7,500? That must be your guys' aims if you were to sit back and be very ambitious about it. Well,
we've got 27,000 seats to fill, but we're super excited by what we've got planned, and we're hopeful that many will have watched the Lionesses over the summer and just want to go and support their local women's team. We've got such a strong local community and such a strong bond between the football club and our community that we hope that many will come down on the 10th of September to support our team.
And just finally then, what do you, as we sit here today, deem, if you could fast forward to May and look in the crystal ball, what would you deem as success on and off the season, on and off the pitch, for Norwich City Women this year? What does success look like?
Yeah, I think, like I said, success is measured in so many different ways, but we just want to see, you know, our players growing week in, week out. You know, they're not just footballers, they're people too. You know, we have a responsibility to develop them holistically, you know, so that's a big measure of success. Player development's at the core, yes. We want to be continue to bring through homegrown players. You know, we had Eloise Moran last year. You know, we want to keep bringing through the next generation. So that's a big part of what we're trying to do. But also off the pitch, we talked about attendances. You know, that's huge as well. You know, and I think for us, this is year 2 of the journey of integration. And we've got so much we want to do, but we can't run before we can walk. So we've got to take those steps slow.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Flo.
No worries.